What's happening, everybody? Jeff here. I am going to run you through Shure Update Utility real quick to get you up to speed and hopefully maybe learn a couple things. So here we are. We've got it downloaded. So assuming you've got it, if not, download it. But if you have it and you haven't used it in a while, you're going to want to make sure you're working with the most up-to-date version. So we go to About, and we can see we got version 2.8.0. So we'll check that against SUU. So if you don't have the update utility yet or need to check to see if you've got the latest and greatest, go to our website, do a search up at the top for SUU, and it'll get you to this page. And then if you click the download, it'll take you here. And here is what we want to look at to see if we are operating indeed on the latest and greatest. So if not, download. And if you are, just go back and know that you are good to go. Okay. So now as we look at the interface here, we basically have three different things to do. We can update devices and see all the gear on our network, which we don't see. We'll get back to that. We've got a firmware tab. So all of the firmware resides on your machine. You have to download it. So this shows you all the different firmwares for all the gear that SUU updates, and it just shows you what you got. The blue dot just is basically saying these are new downloads that you have. I've got lots because I've had update utility for a long time. Yours may not have any or little or not as many. But the next thing here is a button that shows you how many updates you need. In my case, it's only 7, but it could be upwards of 200 if you are downloading this for the first time. So you would just go click here, and then it will show you all a list of everything that needs to pull down from our server to get that firmware ready to go. So by default, it's going to select everything and download it once you hit download. But a lot of times, if you're on site, your internet connection's not that good, you don't want to do that because it's going to take a long time and you need to get going. So what you should do is just go up here, hit none, and then find the specific gear that you're looking to update, and then grab just those and download only the ones you need. So again, just click here, none, and then select the ones you need. In our case, we'll just go ahead and select all. I only got 7. This won't take long. So we'll download it. And now that is good to go. And now this will say check for updates. You can do that, but if it says check for updates, that's pretty much telling you you're fine. You've got everything you need. So if we go back to update devices, again, we don't see anything because we are not probably on the right network interface. So we can do that either by clicking just this little network settings link or going up to preferences. And there we will go to the network tab, and we have the stack of all the available network interfaces. And I know for a fact that mine is on this NIC. So we will hit OK, and then everything should populate. Here it comes. Now, that may not work, but this just points to probably some other network problems that you have going on, and that's beyond the purview of this little tutorial. So if you have any other issues that I do not talk about with SUU, please reach out to support@shure.com, and we will help you out. All right, now that we see everything, we can see a bunch of information, the IP address of each individual device that it's finding, its name, the current version that it's sitting at, and then the version to install. So going back to the address, you can see some of these have a little blue link. That means that that particular device has a web interface. So you can simply double click on that and it will open up the web GUI for that particular thing. Kind of a handy little tool there. Device name should be, just for kind of parsing out what's what, and hopefully stuff is labeled in such a manner that you can tell which device is which, especially if you've got different rooms in an entire campus. You can really parse out where stuff is at, but that's beholden that you've labeled the pieces of gear appropriately. So current version, you're going to get a green dot that says that this device is current. Now, that may be a little bit misleading because if you don't have all of the current firmware downloaded, the current version only reflects the most up-to-date version that you have on your machine. Hopefully that makes sense. So if you see that you have updates, you want to make sure that you pull all those updates because this could actually give you the wrong information. So make sure that everything is downloaded, and then you will know that stuff is up to date. Now, here you can see a yellow dot that's showing that these particular pieces of gear are not up to date. So they are a little bit behind on firmware. And so these are the devices that we're going to want to update. So similar to pulling the firmware down, you can select everything to push or nothing. Now, interesting with here, if we hit all, it will push firmware to everything, whether or not it has the current firmware or not. It will just push. So that's generally not an option we want to do. We basically want to send only the firmware that we want to. And you can get into trouble, especially like I was mentioning, if you've got gear all across campus and you push firmware to everything, you could take a bunch of rooms that are live active meetings down for a good 20 minutes. And that may land you on LinkedIn. So don't do that. Basically, you want to send only the firmware that you want and where you know it is. So in our case, again, we can quite simply go through here and see that I have these two devices that we want to update. So we simply click these and then it will push that firmware. Now, another thing that may happen is that you may need to roll back firmware either because you need to get everything at the same firmware version that your organization or company has set as vetted and appropriate for the job, or for troubleshooting and or support reasons, you may need to roll things back, and or especially with our MXW gear, if you have older gear, specifically older than 5.2.2, you need to step firmware up to that version and then go up to current. So the way you can do this to push a very specific version of firmware is on this field version to install, you simply just double click in the field and then it will bring a drop-down list where you can select the version that you want to push. So again, in the case of MXW specifically, if your gear is older than 5.2.2, you're going to want to make sure you push this firmware that you do have it indeed in your database. You would put everything at 5.2.2, update that, and then once that's done, you're going to have to send everything again to current, which at this point, at this point in recording, is version 10. So let's deselect this because I don't want to repush firmware on that. And we are going to simply just push the updates now to these two devices and sit back, relax, maybe churn some butter, twiddle your thumbs because firmware can take a little while. But once this is done, this should say complete and you can just close out of that and you're done. So that's basically it. That's SUU. Again, there are instances where firmware update fails, or in the current version, you will see a red dot with an asterisk next to the current version. That just points to something is wrong and you need to address it. And again, that's kind of beyond the purview of this little tutorial. So if that's the case, you need to figure that out. Give us a call or email us at support@shure.com. We'll get you squared away. But hopefully this has been helpful and good luck. Ciao for now.